Have you noticed that your Quest 3 gradually seems to hold less and less charge compared to when you first bought it? That's because you're making these common mistakes in using your Quest, which can permanently damage your battery. But I'm here to tell you exactly what will ruin your battery life, things that you should never do to your Quest 3, and give you tips on not just how to extend your play sessions, but how to preserve your battery for years to come so that it doesn't degrade over time. But first, to understand why your charging habits are harmful, you need to understand the mechanism of how the Quest 3 battery works. Quest 3 packs a lithium-ion battery with a capacity of about 4880 mAh, same type of battery that you can find in modern smartphones and in all other Quest headsets. In Quest 3, its capacity allows about 2 hours of usage on a full charge, although it can be a bit more or less depending on how you use it. Lithium-ion batteries work by allowing charging and discharging cycles through internal chemical reactions. And in theory, such a mechanism should work forever, but in practice, repetitive cycling of charging and discharging causes the battery to age and hold less charge over time. That is true for all lithium-ion batteries. If you've had your phone for longer than a year, you might already notice that it now holds noticeably less charge than it did when you first bought it. Two questions might pop in your head. Why does it happen, and how can we prevent it? Essentially, lithium-ion batteries typically have a lifespan of about 500 to 1000 discharge cycles. One full discharge cycle counts when you use all of the battery's power from 100% all the way down to 0, but not necessarily in a single charge. For example, you could use half of the battery's capacity one day, recharge it fully, and then use the other half again the next day, and that would still count as one full cycle over 2 days. I'm mentioning this specifically because it is not only the number of discharge cycles that affects your battery life, but also something called the depth of discharge. The depth of discharge is basically how much of the battery was used before you plugged it in to recharge it. And the closer your battery gets to 0 before you recharge it, the more damaging it is for the battery. This is because deep discharges, specifically in the level that drops below 20%, puts more strain on the battery compared to partial discharges. So it's generally a good idea to start charging your Quest when it's at about 40%. Still, I've got more bad news for you. It's not only letting your battery drop below 20%, but also charging it beyond 80%, especially all the way to 100, that can significantly strain and potentially damage your battery as well. And that is because it leads to what is called saturation charge. Saturation charge occurs when you keep your battery charging above 80%. And the reason it's harmful is because keeping it charged that high requires a very high level of voltage, which is normally beyond the optimal voltage of your battery, and over time it can become weaker. So the bottom line is maintaining a charge level between 20 and 80% is the ultimate sweet spot to really preserve the battery life. Quest 3 or any lithium-ion batteries. And yes, I totally agree with you, that sounds horrible. You're left with 60% of battery on an already small battery capacity for VR gaming. That's where the external power supplies like battery straps and power banks come into play. And I often get asked how Quest 3 battery life is affected by battery straps, because they continuously charge your headset as you play. Well, my personal favorite is the Bobo VR battery strap because of its comfort and convenience. However, it does tend to charge up your headset to the max, leading to what you already know, saturation charge. To avoid that, I usually just disconnect it while I know that I have plenty of juice, and then connect it back when I see that my battery dropping below about 40%. But interestingly, if you're using the official Elite battery strap from Meta, you should know that it is designed to stop charging your Quest 3 once it reaches 70%, and I'm pretty positive that the saturation charge I talked about earlier is the main reason for this. So if you're using the Elite battery strap, you don't need to disconnect the charge. It will cut off automatically when it reaches 70% and then turn on again when it starts to drop. But if you don't want to spend the money on expensive battery straps, you may want to go for the power bank option. It's definitely cheaper. Just connect it to your Quest and put it in your pocket while playing. But how to pick the right power bank is the real question here. While there are lots of fast charging power banks out there, you actually don't want a fast charging one. Remember that you don't want to bring your battery to 100% fast. You just need enough charge to keep the headset running. An ideal power bank is the one that should allow your Quest 3 to charge at about the same rate as it uses the power. So basically, if you plug it at around 70% and then you play for about an hour and then you check your battery and it still says 70%, that's what you want. To get that, you need to find a power bank that matches how much power the Quest 3 uses during a normal play. So let's figure that out. By searching meta forums, I found that Quest 3 normally uses current of about 2 amps when running, although it can be more or less than that depending on what you do. For example, mixed reality experiences generally require more power than regular virtual experiences. We also know that Quest 3 battery voltage is 3.87 volts, and if you didn't skip your physics classes, then you'll remember that to calculate power, you need to multiply voltage by current, or amps. So by multiplying Quest 3 voltage of 3.87 by 2 amps current, we will get about 8 watts of power. And that's the power you should be looking for in your power banks. So head to Amazon or your favorite store, and when you're looking for power banks online, you might need to do the math yourself. Like in this one, I found the combination of 5 volts and 2.1 amps, multiplying those will give us a little over 10 watts, which is quite close to what we need. So if you're going to be playing power demanding games on your Quest 3, then this might be a really good power bank for you. I will drop this one and a couple more power bank recommendations for you in the description, but if you want, you can just do your own research and find what you like. For the record, the charger that comes in the box of Quest 3 has the power of 18 watts, and anything below that is considered slow charging, so keep that in mind. But if you think that your battery condition is beyond saving, then thankfully there is a company called Fix My Oculus that sponsors of today's video that offers a wide range of Quest 2 repair services, including battery replacement services. They'll replace your battery reliably and safely, and your headset will be as good as new. Really, they can repair anything related to your Quest or other VR headsets. Motherboard, display, issues with camera and tracking, there's really nothing that they can't fix, and they always keep their prices lower than the cost of headset replacement. They also have a cool YouTube channel where they share all sorts of really useful DIY Quest repairs so that you can try and fix some of the issues yourself. Definitely go ahead and give them a follow. They're doing some seriously awesome stuff there. Links below. If you give them a call, they can diagnose your issue for free, then you will ship your item to them also for free, and you don't have to pay for anything until the repair is completed and they have fully tested the headset for you. Their service is incredibly valuable for any VR users, so make sure to bookmark their website and save their phone number. And if there's ever any repair needed for your headset, the guys from Fix My Oculus are the 911 of VR. Another question you may have is, what about charging your Quest 3 overnight? And that's a good one. Well, if it's overcharging that you're worried about, then it's perfectly safe because modern electronic devices have this built-in mechanism that prevent overcharging by stopping the charge once the battery reaches 95 to 100%. Again, that's the same with all smartphones. But long-term, considering you're charging your battery fully and putting that stress of high voltage, yes, continuously keeping the headset plugged in leads to saturation charge and can degrade the battery's health over time. My advice will be to check your headset before going to sleep, and if it's already above 90%, then disconnect it. Or if you don't want to disconnect it, make sure to turn it off. This will slow down the battery's discharge rate. Also, never keep your headset plugged in if you're not going to be using it for several days or even longer. Like if you're going on a trip or something. That's days worth of high voltage exposure to your headset that will definitely damage your battery even more, so there's no reason to keep it plugged in for that long. The golden rule about keeping your Quest 3 battery running well for as long as possible is try to avoid long charging sessions and instead do more frequent but short charging. And also, don't let your headset's battery die completely or stay at high charge levels for too long. And avoid fast charges and opt for slow charging power banks if you want to charge and play at the same time. There's a couple more things that can damage your battery. For example, extreme high or low temperatures. When you're playing Quest 3 in high heat, it can cause the battery cells to degrade faster, which will affect both its capacity and lifespan. In extreme cases, your battery can even swell up or burst, and you don't want that. On the flip side, using your Quest 3 in very cold environments can slow down the chemical processes within the battery, making it shut down unexpectedly or show a lower battery percentage. damage. These side effects are usually temporary, but if the extreme cold exposure of your headset is very frequent, then the damage can become permanent, so it's best to avoid it. Sticking to these practices will preserve your battery for many years, but if you want a short-term solution on how to extend each individual play session, then there's a couple of things that you can do. High brightness and volume settings. Maxing out the brightness and volume on your Quest 3 can quickly drain your battery. I recommend lowering the brightness and volume, and you can even use headphones to avoid using Quest 3 speakers and extend battery life. Using 120 Hz refresh rate is tempting, but it consumes a lot more battery life. You can lower the refresh rate to 90 or even lower levels using SideQuest apps. Gaming in warm environments forces your Quest 3 to work harder to cool itself. It's not exactly the same as playing in extreme cold or hot temperature, but just because it will activate the internal fans inside the headset, that will actually cause the battery to die faster. Try to play in cooler areas to help Quest 3 from using those fans more than necessary. It's good to know that Quest 3 has a battery saving mode. Activate this mode through the system settings to lower power consumption without any significant impact on visual quality. Similarly, you may disable the Wi-Fi connection if you don't need the internet for whatever game or app you're playing, which can also preserve your battery, although not many apps will allow you to play them without Wi-Fi. While now you're well equipped to protect your battery from any harm, there's still a lot about Quest 3 that you probably don't know. I made this huge compilation of the best Quest 3 settings that you need to enable right away, so head there to learn some more cool stuff, and I'll see you there.